All right, welcome back to 755 Forever. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic, and you know him, you love him, my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's happening, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. Well, I know everybody got tired of us saying they were going to eventually turn it around, and it took them almost 2 months, 6, 7 weeks, but it looks like that has happened because you don't want to jump the gun and say it after one or two games, but they've had 4 games now where they've been hitting like themselves, beginning with the last game in Baltimore, which they won, and then the first 2 games of the Tampa Bay series. And then they lose today 8-6 after coming back from 6-2 to tie on Riley's 2-run homer in the eighth. So it was it's been a hell of a 4 days. They've looked like themselves in these 4 days. They've looked like last year's team, multiple home runs every game, a 4 home run game yesterday, which they just have not been doing, that at all for, since late April. And you're getting them up and down the lineup. Austin Riley, the biggest thing is Austin Riley, I think, homers in 3 straight games after,
Yeah.
looking lost at the plate. He fixed some things, and we'll get to him in a minute. Special day that he had, an emotional day for him, a rough day. But 3 homers in 3 days. Matt Olson now has done it for about a month. Matt Olson's hit. I know it's quietly snuck up on people, but he's really put up good numbers. And now Kelenic having to move up into the leadoff role. And here he's put together a few really good weeks. Impressive. I looked up today. I was kind of surprised. He's got the third highest OPS on the team in the last 30 days, behind only Ozuna and Olson. So there you go. Your prediction on him is coming true, except for the home run part.
Yeah.
But
Well,
he's got two in
he,
2 days
he
in leadoff.
looks different. There was a point, I don't know how long ago it was, but there's a point during the season where he started standing more upright and more relaxed and looking comfortable. And it's one of those times where you just look at a guy and you go, he looks hitterish. Like
Yeah.
he looks comfortable, and he started taking good swings with it. And I think that's probably about when he started putting up these numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. That was at the Cubs series at Wrigley, was where it kind of came together after tinkering with a whole lot of things. He stood up more right, relaxed his hands, wasn't so
Yeah.
much tension in his shoulders, had his hands lower, and it all kind of came together there. And he really has hit well since that home run he hit in Wrigley, big series he had there. He's kind of carried that forward and looked really good. Looked good enough and confident enough. Then when Michael Harris gets hurt, they don't have many other options rather than Ozzie, and Snit really likes Ozzie in the 2 hole because they don't have anybody better for the 2 hole. So they move Kelenic up, who hit seventh, eighth, or ninth all year. They move him up to the leadoff spot, and he's responded by with a 3-hit game yesterday with a home run, and then another home run today. So can't ask for much more than he's done since they moved him up there.
No, and sometimes, things like that give you extra confidence too. It's like a push. It pushes you forward. It would happen like my first year with the Braves. Bobby threw me into a series in Colorado, and we just happened to be banged up. But I wound up throwing the seventh and eighth innings, with whatever the situation was, coming in bases loaded, 1 out, and finishing the inning, or things like that. But when you get
Yeah.
put in big situations or moved up into a bigger role, sometimes it can kind of kickstart, even more confidence for you.
Speaking of Michael Harris, too, bad news on that. Braves are, I think it was Austin said that night, kind of snake bit this year with the injuries.
Yeah.
It's not that they're having a ton of injuries, but they're all big ones. They're all key
Yeah.
guys. You lose Acuna, and then 3 weeks later, just as Michael Harris is getting accustomed, really getting comfortable in that leadoff role, and they're using him every day instead of the platoon with Ozzie. What does he do? He tweaks, or not tweak, he pulled his hamstring, strained his hamstring. First time he's ever had one, too. And he's got some big hamstrings. I don't know if you've seen him in
Mhm.
shorts, but that dude's got some big hamstrings. So he's got a grade 2 hamstring. Injury report is brought to you by Gerber and Holder, before I forget that. Gerber and Holder, attorneys who only represent injured workers. Just like these Braves, if you've been hurt on the job, go to www.gerberholderlaw.com. That's www.gerberholder law.com. So Michael Harris, too, gets hurt Friday night. He had led off with a single. He goes first to third on Albie's double. Second game in a row, they started the game with a single and a double. Um, and between second and third, it wasn't one of those dramatic ones where, he guy pulls up and grabs his
Yeah.
hamstring. So I was kind of hopeful for him. that it was just more a tweak or anything, but he comes out of the game. They do an MRI the next morning. He's got a grade 2, which means there's some tearing in there, which is not good. Which a guy who's all speed based, power based, speed based game, center fielder, I'm going to guess he's probably going to be out a month
Yeah. Yeah, and that's rough.
with a hamstring. You just can't push that at all.
No, not when you're a center fielder and your game
Yeah.
is speed. You know, like pitchers and stuff, you can kind of baby some things and get away with it. But center fielder, that's no chance.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like an oblique. It's one of those where even if it feels like it's almost all the way healed, but there's still a little bit there, and you try to push that,
Got it loose and
you re-injure it, yeah, and you're lingering. And with the hamstring, there's no way he could baby it. He's going to be in there doing what he does, which is all
yeah,
out, especially at center field. So
yeah.
they're going to have to wait till it's completely healed. So I mean, that's just my guess. Maybe it'll be shorter, but if I had to guess, I'd say it'd probably be longer than that. But again, I'm just speculating. But a grade 2 is obviously is worse than just a grade 1, which is just strain rather than any
Yeah.
kind of a tissue tear, but there's some tearing if it's a grade 2, my understanding. And
You're
that's
spot
different.
on about the injuries, though. It's a lot of times you have these teams that are missing guys for a week or 2 weeks, or a guy that keeps going on the IL for 10 days or whatever it is now. And these are big ones. You know,
Yeah.
Strider, Cunha, losing guys for the year, losing guys for a month and a half at a time. Is
Murphy for 2 months.
Murphy for two. Yeah,
Those are, I mean, those are all stars plus a guy that was an all-star caliber guy in the second half last year was unbelievable. Harris
yeah,
was, and he
yep.
was playing. He was really starting to put together this year too, and playing great defense regardless of what he was doing at the plate. So, but I thought he was really starting to get accustomed to that leadoff spot. But the good news is Kelenic really looks capable of handling it. And we've talked about this. Sometimes you put guys and their role expands, and his has. He came in first. They were going to give him the regular left field job. Then they signed Duvall because they got Duvall cheap, and they're like, we can't pass up on signing Duvall. So he starts the year in a platoon in left field. Acuna gets hurt. Duvall goes to right. So now Kelnic's in everyday left field, but still batting seventh, eighth, ninth. Now Harris gets hurt. Kelnick moves over to center field. So
Mm-hmm.
he's playing center now and leading off. So that's quite a big jump in a span of a few weeks in his role on this team.
Yeah, I mean, from where he started in the season, you're going to play. You might get into 100 something games, but you're going to start probably 90 of them or so, maybe 80.
In
And now
left field.
you're in left, and now you're the starting center fielder hitting leadoff.
I tell you what, I like him in center too. I think he's more than capable of handling that with his speed and his arm. He's got a good arm.
Oh yeah,
He's
he's
not
a
going to be a
hammer.
Michael Harris out there, but he's going to be above average probably.
He'll get the job done. I've been. I guess I didn't. The narrative around here in Seattle was all just based on everything negative about him
Right.
because he came over in the Edwin Diaz trade. He was a huge deal and never really took off in Seattle. So I'd heard only the bad things about him. Then I saw him play left field. I'm like, shit, that's a great athlete.
Yeah.
And he never takes his at bats into the field with him, which is, something I look for because you can see guys that they're 0 for 3 or 0 for 4. Next thing you know, they just misplay a ball or get
Yeah.
lazy on a ball and left, like they're taking their bats out to the field with them. But he would be 0 for 4 and make a diving play, which is something you got to respect.
Well, everyone said, and we talked about this, how I thought that he was going to be much better in a much better situation, surrounded by a bunch of proven veteran guys, not having the weight of the team on his shoulders, hitting at the bottom of the order. And if he slumped and all that, instead of getting frustrated and kicking a cooler, he was going to have a bunch of guys around him like Austin Riley that have been there, done the same thing,
Yeah,
and tell him, hey, dude, chill. We got this. So, and it's worked that way. It's funny. Ozuna was talking about him. That the MO on him is really intense. It doesn't really come across in interviews and all that, but they said he's really intense, hard on himself, really fiery. And as Ozuna said, "Oh, you're going to be all right, man. He goes crazy sometimes, but he resets it." And he said he goes crazy, but he resets it.
yeah,
And I think they've all kind of worked with him to get him to kind of
yep,
don't break anything, don't do anything stupid. And this move, this trade was the best thing that could have happened for him at this point of his career, because I really think we're starting to see him put it together. This is a really legit 4 or 5 tool athlete. If he
oh
hits for
yeah,
average, he's 5 tool
yeah. And
because he's got
sometimes
power.
you got to be around guys that apply what they're saying. And and live. Like, you're not gonna see Ozuna kick a cooler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when it comes from a guy that actually lives it, and you're seeing him, and he's been in the league for probably 10 years now, he can go for 4, and he's probably smiling after the game. And people get confused with, sometimes confuse that with not caring,
Yeah.
but that's just understanding that there's a 162 game season. And I'm sure we've talked about this before, but if you ride that roller coaster, you ride those ups and downs, it can feel like a 700 game season. If
Yeah.
you just take it day by day, and you can learn how to fail, and take it on the chin, have a good attitude, and come back the next day, the season can fly by, and it can be fun. And that's half the time when you see guys in these big, huge slumps, they're too invested in it. They're taking each at bat and everything too serious almost, where you have to be able to just be like, shit, I suck today. I'll get them tomorrow. And it's not easy, but there's guys in the
Yeah.
majors that can do that. They can just suck for a day, go 0 for 4, and they're not acting like nothing happened. It's literally like nothing happened. And you see them at the field the next day, they're smiling again. And that was something I struggled with early in my career. The next day I'm still pissed off and I'm down, and people are watching you walk around with your head down. And all that does is it just carries into the next game. But I think being surrounded by guys, a lot of veterans that have been through it all, and watching guys like Riley slump, Olson slump, and then seeing
Yeah.
how they handle it, it has to rub off on you.
So the Braves had slumped from late April through the first 8 games of that 3-6 road trip.
Yep.
But beginning with the 6-3 win in the road trip finale Friday at Baltimore, and through the 3 games of this Tampa Bay series, they hit 297 with 9 home runs, averaged 7 runs a game. And this is after and the OPS 914 during a 3-game winning streak Friday through Saturday, or I'm sorry, Thursday through Saturday. They had a 914 OPS those 3 games, 900 for the 4 games. And this is after losing 24 of the 41 previous games and hitting 217 with 37 homers in 41 games and a 631 OPS, averaging 3.4 runs a game for 41 games. So double the scoring average, more than double the home runs, and OPS and about 300 points higher, 270 points higher during this last 4 games. So, I mean, this is what we saw basically the entire year last year, what they've done the last 4 games. So I think they've turned a corner, really, because you're looking at Olson now. He's driving balls to the opposite field, to the wall on a regular basis, pulling home runs, home run to center. And Riley, great signs from him. 3 homers in 3 days, and he's driving the ball. One of them is to right center. And we've said when he hits, like Chipper told him, aim for that Allstate or State Farm, the bullpen sign behind the bullpen, the red sign. And when he's
Now
doing
hit it
that,
today. Yeah.
he's on it. Yeah. 427 today on an 437 on 11 pitch at bat. Longest at bat that's ended in a home run in his career. And he fouled off 3 straight 3-2 pitches before he crushed that one, 11th pitch.
Yeah. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I would have rather lost 8-6 today than won 1-0. Just
Yeah.
for looking
Yeah.
at how the offense has been going, and that if they hit,
Yeah.
because that's what's been missing. That if they hit, that the rest of the team's going to do their job, but that's what's been missing. So every game that they put up a big number or come back late right now, I'm like, they're getting back to where they were.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. They're getting terrific pitching from the first 3. And Charlie's got his ERA under 4. It's not like he's pitching poorly either. Charlie's doing fine for a 4th starter.
Yeah.
So they're getting great work from the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
From Sale, Lopez, Ronald Lopez, and Max Fried. The big problem is the 5th and, in effect, the 6th starter role, because they're plugging a 5th guy in there, and then about half the time they're plugging another guy to give them extra rest if there's not an off day in the schedule. They're not skipping any of the starters on the off day, so they're going with a 5-man. And then when they've got a stretch like they just had, where they play like 10, 12, 15 games in 15 days, that kind of thing, they're plugging in another guy, a 6th starter in effect, to give those extra guys, those top guys, extra rest, specifically Ronaldo Lopez and Chris Sale. And it's working to perfection for those top guys. The problem is they're lacking anybody to really step up into the role, because Bryce Elder didn't do it. If Strider had not gotten hurt, Charlie would be in that spot, because
Yep.
Lopez started in the fifth spot. He moved up. Charlie would be the fifth, and they'd be fine.
Yep.
But since Strider got hurt, they've been shuffling in guys for the fifth and sixth starter role. And the only one that even had really good start was Smith Shawver. That was less than 5 innings. He didn't give up any runs, but he strained his oblique in that season debut, and he's on the IL. So the rest of these guys, some of them really talented, specifically the first two prospects, number one and number two prospect, Hurston Waldrop, who we saw first, second start today. Schwellenbach. I thought Schwellenbach pitched really well in his third start, the one at Baltimore. I feel good about him. I think he's ready. I think if he can build on that, he'll be fine.
Yep.
For one of those. But Waldrop, it was clear today, he's just not ready. And Snit said the same thing afterwards. He needs more experience. They optioned him down today. He's made 2 starts. The first one he was recorded. He faced the minimum 12 or minimum 9 batters through 3. Then melted down the 4th inning, gave up 7 runs. 3 of those scored after he left the bases loaded. Second start, again, he gives up 2 solos before the 4th inning, but then a meltdown in the 4th inning. He gives up, or a solo and a 2-run, I think. He gives up 4 runs in the 4th inning on a grand slam to a guy who hadn't hit a home run all year on an 0-2 fastball. Up and in, but not nearly high enough and in. But he never should have thrown that pitch to that guy. But after hitting a guy and 2 walks, hit by pitch, walk, grand slam, end of day.
Yeah, I mean, you start to realize how important it is to not walk people in the big leagues, especially when you have his stuff.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's so many nerves and things going on. It's a really tough league to get comfortable in.
And that's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this. What you see it with so many guys. It's not a big deal. You have to get comfortable in the big leagues. You have to find a way to feel like you belong, relax, and pitch your game. And I mean, you'd think with the stuff that a guy has, it would be easier, but it's not. There's the third deck. There's all the chaos before and after the game. There's media. There's so much more to it. And I don't know. I mean, like in my first year in the big leagues, my first like month and a half, every game felt like my first time throwing. And it's just like my major league debut, I couldn't even feel the ball in my hand. It's so hard to slow yourself down, and he'll get comfortable just like everybody else does, and then you'll see who he really is. But you have to go through this, and you have to find a way to get comfortable first.
We talk about that, and every time like a guy like Bryce Elder would get lit up, they call up Schwellenbach and they said, how did he jump Waldrop? And then Schwellenbach give up some runs and they go, oh, bring up Waldrop.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's so easy. They think when a guy's putting up dominant, because we read those numbers that Waldrop was putting up and Schwellenbach was putting up in the minors, just dominating guys, striking out, tons of strikeouts, hardly any walks, no home runs. And they just assume, especially since the guy was pitching in the College World Series a year ago, he's faced the bright lights where people just don't understand the difference. The big leagues is just an entirely different animal.
Yeah, I mean it's all that, it's all the bright lights and everything, but it's also the players are so damn good. I mean, every single one of these guys, when they get sent down to AAA, the 9-hole hitter's hitting in the 3-hole or the 4-hole. They're hitting in the middle of the lineup. And it's kind of my favorite quote that I've ever heard about it was BMAC. Brian McCann was talking about it. And he's like, people talk about it's like AAA and then there's 4A guys and then there's big leaguers. And he's like, but big leaguers aren't 5A. Albert Pujols is not 5A. Albert Pujols is 46A.
Yeah.
And he starts naming guys, and he's like, Ichiro is 71A.
You're
so
right.
It's not like when you go from AAA to the big leagues, you're just jumping a level or two. You're facing guys that are playing a game 70 levels above AAA or whatever level you've been. Like that 0-2 fastball up and in, there's nobody that hurts you on that in AAA.
Exactly.
Get away with it. So it's a matter of just getting comfortable in the league, being able to focus through every single pitch of every single at bat, knowing where you're going to get hurt. There's just a lot more to it. And that's why that's my favorite quote ever, because when it gets described as like this next level, it's not. There's guys playing 50 levels above AAA that they're never going back. And you'd never face somebody that good in AAA.
That's a great point. That 0-2 pitch, he's so used to in the minors, I'm sure, because he wasn't walking anybody, because he doesn't need to walk anybody. He could just throw them strikes, hittable strikes in the major leagues, very hittable strikes in the major leagues. But nobody in the minor leagues is going to hit when he throws a high up and in fastball on a guy's hands. This guy pulls it for a home run today.
Yeah. You
A
just
guy who's not hit a home run this year.
stuff happens that you just don't see down there. And I mean, every time I'd go on a rehab assignment after pitching in the big leagues, I mean, if I was really bad at maybe AAA, I'd have to grind. But when you go to single A and you've been in the big leagues for 5 or 6 years, it's like pitching against little leaguers.
Yeah.
I mean, you just make pitches and they do what they're supposed to. You can't even really get a read if you're right or not. And then even in AAA, is so much easier than majors. If you make pitches in AAA, you get outs. You make a mistake, it gets fouled off. You bounce back, you make the next pitch. It's totally different league.
And with the great numbers that he had in the minors, with the tons of strikeouts, he was hardly walking anybody at the end there. He's made 2 starts now in the major leagues. He's pitched a total of 7 innings. He hadn't got out of the 4th inning in either one of them. Given up 9 hits, 13 runs, 3 homers, 8 walks with 3 strikeouts and a hit batter. As great as this guy's stuff is, and it is legit, that split is nasty.
Yep.
That split has such movement. I was watching it today, and it's like, it's not hittable. If he can throw his pitches for strikes, get ahead, he could use that. But but the problem is, when he throws a fastball that's on the corner, but it's just not, it's up in a zone, and it's he doesn't have enough. As he said, it's not command, because I asked him, is it just command? You're walking guys. He goes, I don't think it's command at all. It's controlling the moment.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
he said, well, I'm not ready. I don't know. I'm not equipped to do that just yet. He just said, I just need more experience.
Yeah. And you get in those situations enough. You learn how, like, that's what I always told myself. If I was in whatever situation it was in, I'm just going to control what I can control. I'm going to make a good pitch. It doesn't have to be my best pitch. It doesn't have to be better than what I have. I'm not going to overthrow. I'm going to make the pitch. And I also know where I want to miss if I miss with it. Where can this guy hurt me?
Yeah.
If middle in is his nitro zone and we're going in with a slider, I'm missing in off the plate. And that's where I'm kind of favoring with that pitch. So it's either going to be perfect or it's going to miss off, but you know where guys will hurt you. And I think that happens with young guys a lot, is they think they have to be better. And the moment you walk a couple guys and you're like, it speeds up on you. Now I'm trying
unravels.
harder, and I'm trying to do more. And it's I mean,
that's what he did.
That's the entire difference for me during my career, was learning how to stay calm in those moments. You stay calm, you make a good pitch, you getting out. But it's so easy to get wrapped up in it and overthrow, and now it's a grand slam.
And you could just watch it unraveling on him again.
Yeah.
You're like, he's cruising along, he's doing fine. Uh-oh, he hits a guy. Next guy walks a guy. Uh-oh, here we go.
Yep.
Walks the next guy, loads the bases.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
As soon as you feel that,
yeah.
As soon as you even think like, oh shit, here we go again, you guaranteed it's going to be a laser show. Everybody's going to hit you. They're going to spit on anything bad.
Yeah. And this is a guy that pitched at Florida in his last year there after transferring, and was a stud. And in the College World Series, he's making guys look really good, hitters look bad. Then in the minors, dominate. But he's got 84 innings in the minor leagues before he was promoted. He was rushed. And that's because the Braves are doing this thing. I understand why they're doing it. It's working great for the first starters. And he had shown, he was worthy of a shot, but it's obvious he wasn't ready. Just like almost every other one.
This is how you get there. You come up and you haven't had to learn this lesson yet.
Right.
Now you know what you need to go to the minors and work on, and you really focus. And when he goes down to the minors and he walks a couple guys and it feels like, things might be unraveling, if he gets out of it making shitty pitches, he needs to know, like, I didn't nail that. And now he'll know like, okay, I got out of that because my stuff's so good and I overpowered the guys, but those pitches probably get hit. So you have to evaluate yourself outside the results and have different expectations, regardless of if you get out of it or not. You throw a fastball right down the middle and get a pop-up with the bases loaded and 2 outs, you have to be walking off the field shaking your head like, I blew it. Like, I messed that up again. I got to be better than that. But I don't know if you have that perspective until you've gotten to a place where you pay for it.
Yeah. There's not many guys like Strider that come up and stay, basically, or like when Ian Anderson came up and was facing the Yankees.
Yeah.
And outpitched Garrett Cole in his first start, but he had a lot more experience in the minors too than
and he didn't have the stuff to get away with.
Waldrop did. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I think they have to get, I know Ian Anderson's about to start a rehab assignment, so they could get him back right after the All-Star break, maybe. But you can't count on that, and you're not going to have a whole lot of time to judge him before the trade deadline. And you can't count on Sale and Lopez not needing a break at some point, not having a twinge with the innings they've pitched. Or
It's
Freed,
working.
we've seen him. So I think they've got to go out and get a proven innings eater. Doesn't have to be a great guy. It could be a fourth or fifth starter, but a guy that can go out and give you 7 innings every time out,
Like a
even if it's a
Lance
four
Lynn.
ERA. Yeah, even if it's a
Just,
four ERA guy,
yep,
somebody.
yep,
They've got to make a move like that. Can't be one of the top guys because those guys are going to be so people are going to overpay for them
yep.
because there's so many contenders for wild card spots and so few top line starters. So that's not what you need. You've got three front line starters.
Yeah.
You just need a back end guy that you can count on because they can't keep, in my opinion, keep cycling through and basically every fifth and sixth games or twice a week just crossing your fingers and hoping a guy can give you 4 innings because it's not good for your bullpen. It's not good for your offense, because you have a meltdown inning like this. The numbers, I wrote something for tomorrow. The numbers on these guys, it is 7 pitchers. I'm not counting Strider's 2 starts, counting the other guys who've filled in for the fifth and sixth starter roles, basically. They've made 16 starts, which is more starts than any of the other guys have made. Sale, Lopez, Freed. They've all made like 13 or 12. But those guys combined have made 16 starts. They have a cumulative 1-10 or 1-9 record, 7.40 ERA in those 16 starts. So
Tough.
that's tough. That's tough.
I mean, if they had the offense they had last year, you probably win half those games. But still, that's tough.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see what they do, but I think that has to be a priority. And I mean, we'll see now that you've lost Harris. I think the outfield thing becomes even more of a priority because you're running Ramon Laureano out there, and he just got released by the Indians and waived by the A's a couple of years ago. He's hit under 200, I think, the last 2 or 3 years in the majors. I mean, he had fine in AAA. We'll see if he's figured out some things, but you can't really count on that. So he's played the last 2 days. You got JP Martinez, Rangers, another minor league guy, real good in the minors, but a 4A guy so far. So I think you need to go out and get an outfielder, especially with Harris out now. You don't know how long he's going to be out. So those are really the only 2 spots that you need to even worry about, I think, because you're fine the bullpen. I mean, everybody can use bullpen help, but their bullpen's okay. They're fine. They got depth. But you really need those other 2 spots. I think you need to go out and do something. So um just last thing about Riley, man. I was talking about what a rough day it was for him. I don't know if you guys have we talked about Mike Brumley on the show before when Riley I wrote a story about a couple of years ago. Mike Brumley was the minor league hitting coordinator from 18 to 21 with the Braves. And in the hitting, just like with pitching coordinators, there's certain guys that really get close with certain hitters and they speak to them well. They connect. And Brumley was the one guy that connected with Riley that was able to fix Riley's swing, kind of like Chipper's dad was with him. Um, there's always a guy that a specific coach that helps a guy more than others. Brumley was Riley's guy. And every time he had a problem even when Brumley was the minor league coordinator and Riley was up in the majors, he'd call Brumley. They'd look at video and he'd send him something on the phone and say, here's what you're doing. We'd call him up, text him, whatever. And after Brumley left the organization in 21, Riley kept working with him, and the Braves were fine with that. They're not like, no, don't talk to him. They're fine with that because he helped him.
Yeah,
And I
whatever
think
you're hitting.
that's what's great about Seitz is he's not territorial like that.
No.
He's got enough, security
Yeah.
and he's not an ego guy. And he's like, hey, if that guy helps you, I know Mike Brumley, he worked for us. We want you to work with him. So, but he would call Brumley in Texas. Brumley lived down in Texas. Riley would go down, stay with him for like 5 days every winter, at least once, work with him at his school, the hitting school. Brumley runs down there. Anyway, this is his hitting guy, the Riley whisperer, if you will. And every time something gets fouled up, he goes to Brumley. Well, last week, Riley worked with Brumley in Baltimore. Brumley was up there. I think his kid lives up there. So when Riley was in town with the Braves facing the Orioles, he worked with Brumley. found some things that were wrong with his swing that were getting him tied up, and he had a lot of strikeouts as a result, and he wasn't hitting. And they felt really good about his swing. And Brumley, I think, told Greg Walker, the minor league coach now, that Briley's ready now. And he came. So what happens? He comes back from Baltimore, homers in 3 straight games against the Rays, struck out 1 time in the series, just night and day what he's doing. And he's back to being Austin Riley. He gets a text last night at 2:30 in the morning. Brumley was killed in a car crash last night in Baltimore. I mean, 61 years old. It's like, as Riley said, I've had 2 guys who've influenced my careers, 2 mentors that have helped my career. Well, number 1, my dad. Number 2, Mike Brumley. So he said he got a text at 2:30 and I haven't been asleep since then. And he was fighting back tears as he was talking to us. He said, but this ain't about me. This is about his family, his kid, and prayers to them and all this. Because Riley's a class act, man. But you could tell he said, it's going to be tough going forward, man, because he meant so much to him.
Yeah.
But that's rough. So that's why he had an 11 pitch at bat. And he said, I was thinking about him the whole time. I was thinking about him the whole day. And when he was talking to us, you could tell his mind was a mile away. But he was around to the bases. He pointed to the sky. And so that's that, man. But it's rough. Life intrudes on sports sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, those guys turn into almost like a second dad for you.
Yeah.
I had a guy, Brad Holman, for me. You know, I would go see him in Wichita and stay at his house, and I can't imagine. I can't imagine what he's feeling right now, and their family too. That is brutal.
Yeah, because he got tight with him going down and staying with him, got tight with his family,
Yeah,
staying
you
with
are
his
family.
Yeah.
Somebody like that, that's family.
And Riley was his pet project, man. I mean, he was proud of him. So that's tough for personal reasons, for professional reasons, most obviously personal being the family being the most important thing, but professional reasons too, going forward. So thinking about Austin, I know it's a rough day for him. It's going to be a rough while for him, and Brumley's family, Jesus Christ, that's terrible. Terrible. So on Father's Day too, night before Father's Day, he's up there with his kid.
Puts things in perspective.
Yeah. So anyway, everybody, happy Father's Day. Tell your dad you love him today. I'm sure you probably already have, but we appreciate you guys watching us, and we'll be back again after sometime next week. 7:55.